Hi there, this is Dylan. I recognize that I'm wearing more triggering clothing than usual. I also recognize that I'm speaking from an altar that used to make videos but hasn't in a while. I would imagine that with the hormonal change that I am experiencing right now, the system is changing up regarding who speaks. Anyhow, I decided to make this video in an attempt to explain some of the things that are going on in our dissociative system. I recognize that I have been saying things recently that may particularly be interpreted by people as psychosis. I would like to once again express that we are a highly sensitive person, we are on the autism spectrum, and we are being systematically, mentally, physically, and emotionally broken through torture-based mind control, which is not a delusion. It is a reality, and it is a big component of that reality that it's designed to drive a person insane and make that person look insane even when they are speaking from a place of at least relative sanity. I am not saying any of this in order to cast doubt on anything that I have said. I'm just saying this because I understand what a lot of people might think of certain things that I have said. And I myself struggle greatly as a dissociative victim of this shit and trusting my own perceptions. But I have my own internal mechanisms for discerning what is true, and I do my best like anyone would in this position. I have pending 3 videos in which I have played the piano, more improvisation stuff, and there's edgy humor in the descriptions. And I'm not going to comment on it because it wasn't something I, as a part of the system, wrote. Anyhow, it's more stuff that'll probably make people think that we're insane. But what can I say? I, according to my handlers in childhood, have an IQ of approximately 190. And I've been going through torture since conception, so I think it is understandable that I would have a dark and painful sense of humor. I don't say that to be arrogant. It's just the majority of people in my position, I think, tend to either develop a certain sense of humor or cease to exist. And I am still in existence, so I personally have this sense of humor. So, something I want to say that I think is important is that like I said in my last talking video, I was hospitalized. This was something quote-unquote voluntary. And I think it's funny that I just said that, the phrase quote-unquote, because that is a song by a band called Mr. Bungle, and that about summarizes my experience with that place. It was in the town of Santa Barbara. I will go ahead and say that because it's not where I live. And humanity. MK Ultra. I can see the torture and the horror in my own eyes right now. I would hope that people who are empathetic or compassionate might be able to see that also, as much as I am sorry, because I really don't want to scare anyone. But, yeah, that was some shit. I checked myself into a hospital because I was in a state of extreme panic, having ended up somewhere unfamiliar and being targeted while I was there. I broke down and I decided that if I were to go to a hospital, even though I would be reaccessed, I would be safer from whatever would be done to me outside, and also I would be able, most likely, to get a bus ticket back to where I had come from. And so I made the agonizing decision to subject myself to the horror of psychiatric MK Ultra for a couple of days, and then what I feared might happen otherwise didn't happen. And I did get a bus ticket and I made it back here to where I was from. So, yeah, those couple of days that I was in the hospital, I remember certain things involving accessing. I'm wary of going into detail for my own safety regarding further accessing. But one thing I can say is that the place I was taken, I did not see any other patients hardly at all. I was kept in an isolated room. There was another bed, but there was no one else in that bed, as far as I can recall. The room was white. There were slight variations to the shade of white, although I can't recall if that was just the bedding or what. But I think there were different shades of white and off-white, but pretty much just white. And I really don't know how much to say. But perhaps my face will speak for itself. Perhaps my eyes will speak for themselves. I have enough empathy and I've done enough psychedelic drugs in my life to know that we all look radically different to each other than we do to ourselves. I am pretty sure some of our perceptions must at some point line up. Mathematics, I would assume, would suggest that, but for the most part, my point is that I cannot possibly judge what another person could see in myself. I can only know what I see in my own self. What I see in my own self is isolation and horror. So I'm trying to recover from this as best I can. I want to say so much, but I just keep being blocked. One thing I will say is that it was not a regular psych hospital. I don't know what kind of hospital it was. I remember what it was called. I might look it up online eventually when the thought of doing so won't make me vomit, but I just thought about doing that and I almost puked. So I don't know. One thing I will say is that the doctor's eyes make my eyes look so calm and centered, free from fear and trauma. When the doctor walked in the room, and I saw his eyes. It was one of the worst feelings, and I feel like this is starting to sound like some kind of scary theater thing. Something in me just said that, but then I saw an image in my mind of one of my worst handlers. So that might just be inner gaslighting. Anyways, this is going on long and I feel like I haven't said much. Anyways, the room was generally white. I was alone. And the doctor makes me sound like the sanest person who has ever lived. I feel like this broke my mind in a way that it has yet to have been broken. And that might be part of what I was intended to believe. But nevertheless, I've been through this since birth. I recall a picture of myself as an infant in my mother's arms. She looked so beautiful, my mother, with her red lipstick and her curly blonde hair and her sadistic smile, like she was ready to marry the devil himself. It was at a Christmas party at my parents' house, I think. And I myself had a look of horror, like I had borne all the suffering of all the world, or at least witnessed it. So I guess I'll be okay. But yeah, psychiatric hospitals. One thing that I think is valuable to note, I didn't go there directly myself, as in like walk in the door. I went to call an ambulance. And the place I went to do so, there were 2 ambulances right there. And I had to beg to be let on. They didn't want to let me on. I don't think they believed me that I needed help. But it was quite something. I don't know what to make of the whole thing, other than I guess it was just the usual MK. But I am sorry that this is how things are. I'm trying to remember that humanity is in a perpetual state of flux and growth. And at this point, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the terror that I know a lot of people, including myself, are feeling right now, that this might be the start of a much bigger conflict. I just think this is a perfect time to remember that evolution involves destruction, that growth is impossible without pain, it seems. I feel like I'm talking in what sounds like Illuminati speak, but I mean what I'm saying. The universe was born of horror and of peace. It was lovemaking, masturbation, and rape. It was incest. It was both creation and destruction. It had to tear itself apart. And we all carry seeds of this. And the human condition is an interesting opportunity we have the capacity to reflect on the seeds of all this pain and horror. And thereby master it. Nothing I have just said is a justification for human atrocity. Rather, I think that through the acknowledgement and the acceptance of the reality of the dark within us all, there is a chance for transmutation and for peace to prevail. I feel like there's so many triggers in that, but what can I do? I'm sitting here with a black hood and a red sweater. I have been saturated in monarch mind control, and I'm actively being destroyed. But I'm still here. In this moment, aside from whatever I'm being drugged with, of course, I am clean and sober. To the best of my knowledge, I have not hit a dope pipe. My pupils are dilated, probably because I'm terrified. So, that said, I will conclude this video by saying love for Ukraine, love for the whole world, and love for people in psychiatric hospitals. Peace.